Dr. Zyra was a talented alien doctor living on the vibrant planet of Zithara. The skies were a beautiful shade of purple, and the trees glowed with soft blue lights. Dr. Zyra worked in the Central Research Lab, where she studied different alien species and their unique biological traits. Her goal was to understand life forms throughout the universe, but she had never encountered a human before. One day, while examining samples from a recent expedition, the lab's alarms suddenly blared. "Intruder alert! Intruder alert!" echoed through the corridors. Dr. Zyra hurried to the observation deck, where she saw a human being carried by two of her lab assistants. He was covered in wounds and appeared unconscious. "Bring him in!" Dr. Zyra ordered, her heart racing with both excitement and concern. This was her first chance to study a human up close. The assistants carefully laid the human on an examination table. Dr. Zyra stepped forward, her mind racing with questions. Who was this human? Why was he here? As she began her examination, Dr. Zyra noticed that the human's skin was pale, and he had dark hair matted with dirt. She checked his vital signs. His heart was beating fast, and he was breathing, but it was shallow. She needed to act quickly. "Prepare the healing chamber," she commanded. The assistants rushed to comply, activating the machine that would help stabilize the human's condition. Dr. Zyra observed him closely, intrigued by his anatomy. Human biology was said to be complex, but she was ready for the challenge. Once the chamber hummed to life, Dr. Zyra examined the readings on the screens. The human's body temperature was high, indicating a fever. "What kind of creature are you?" she whispered, fascinated. As she worked, she found it strange that his body was reacting violently to the foreign environment. She had seen many alien species adapt quickly, but this human seemed to struggle. With each passing moment, the human began to stir. His eyes fluttered open, revealing a mix of confusion and fear. Dr. Zyra's heart raced. She had never treated a human before. She leaned closer, trying to speak gently. "You are safe. I am Dr. Zyra. I am here to help you." Jake, the human, blinked at her, taking in the strange surroundings. "Where am I?" he croaked, his voice hoarse. "What happened?" "You are on Zithara," she explained, noting how his eyes widened in shock. "You were injured. My team found you." Jake tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body. "I need to get back." "My team. They're in danger," he gasped. Dr. Zyra quickly placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are too weak. You must rest." As he lay back down, Dr. Zyra noticed the intense determination in his eyes. This human was brave, even in pain. "Why do you want to return?" she asked, genuinely curious. "We're fighting against an enemy," Jake replied, struggling to explain. "We can't leave anyone behind." Dr. Zyra was struck by his loyalty and courage. She had studied many species, but humans were different. Their emotions were raw and powerful, unlike anything she had seen. They had a fierce desire to protect one another, which made them unique. "Your biology is extraordinary," Dr. Zyra said, her scientific mind racing with ideas. "I want to learn more about you." Jake looked at her, a mix of surprise and skepticism in his eyes. "Why would you want to study me? I'm just a soldier." "Because understanding you can help us," Dr. Zyra explained. "I have seen many creatures adapt to challenges, but your body reacts in ways I've never encountered. You could teach us how to be stronger." Jake studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "If it helps my team, then fine." Dr. Zyra smiled, grateful for his cooperation. As she prepared her tools, she felt a rush of excitement. This human was a mystery waiting to be solved, and she was ready to dive deep into the unknown. Little did they both know that this encounter would change their lives forever, as they began to unravel the fascinating complexities of human biology together. The journey ahead would be full of surprises, challenges, and a bond that would bridge the gap between their worlds. Dr. Zyra stood in her lab, her heart racing with excitement and curiosity. The human, Jake, was resting in the healing chamber, and she was determined to learn more about his biology. For the first time, she felt the thrill of studying a species so different from her own. She had always been fascinated by life, but this was unlike anything she had ever experienced. As Jake began to recover, Dr. Zyra checked on him daily. Each time she entered the chamber, she noticed something new. Humans had many layers of emotion, and they expressed their feelings in ways that were both complex and beautiful. She found herself drawn to his resilience and determination. It was as if he carried the weight of his entire planet on his shoulders. One morning, Dr. Zyra entered the chamber to find Jake sitting up looking stronger. "Good morning," she said, her voice bright with enthusiasm. "How do you feel today?" Jake smiled weakly. "Better, thanks to you." His gratitude made her heart swell. "I'm curious about your world, too. What is Zythara like?" Dr. Zyra's eyes lit up. "Zythara is a place of beauty. The skies are purple, and the trees glow softly at night. We value knowledge and harmony with nature." She paused, her expression turning serious. "But we also face challenges. Many species struggle to survive just like your kind." Jake nodded, understanding the struggle of life. "We have our own challenges on Earth. Wars, diseases, and survival against nature. But we always find a way to fight back." As they spoke, Dr. Zyra decided to share more about human biology. "I want to understand how your body works. I've read about your immune system, but I want to see it in action." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You mean my immune system is interesting?" "Yes!" "It reacts strongly to threats," she explained, excitement bubbling in her voice. "I read that humans can become very ill from simple things like infections, but your bodies can also heal remarkably fast." Jake chuckled, shaking his head. "We're pretty fragile compared to other species, but we're tough too. It's all about survival." Intrigued, Dr. Zyra suggested an experiment. "Let's conduct a test to see how your body reacts to different substances." She explained her plan, and Jake agreed, curious about how this might help both of them. They set up the experiment, and Dr. Zyra gathered various samples from her lab. Some were alien plants, while others were common Earth substances. "We'll start with this one," she said, picking up a small vial containing a green liquid. "What is it?" Jake asked, eyeing the vial suspiciously. "It's a plant extract from Zythera. It has healing properties," Dr. Zyra said, injecting a small amount into Jake's arm. He winced, but trusted her expertise. "Let's see what happens," she murmured, watching the readings on her monitor. Almost immediately, Jake's body reacted. He felt a rush of warmth followed by a tingling sensation. "Is this normal?" he asked, eyes wide with surprise.
"Yes!"
"Your body is responding," she replied, jotting down notes. "This reaction is fascinating. It shows how sensitive your immune system is." They continued with the experiment, testing various substances. Each time, Jake felt different reactions, some pleasant and others uncomfortable. Dr. Zyra observed him closely, noting how each substance affected his body. Through these experiments, Jake shared stories of his life on Earth. He spoke about his friends, family, and the bond humans shared during tough times. Dr. Zyra listened intently, fascinated by the strength of human emotions. "Humans are driven by connections," Jake explained. "We protect each other, and our relationships are everything. That's how we survive." Dr. Zyra felt a wave of admiration for him. "You are not just a creature to study. You have depth and strength that goes beyond biology." As the days passed, their friendship deepened. Dr. Zyra learned not only about Jake's body, but also about his heart. She saw how his kindness and determination inspired her, changing her views on life. Together, they formed a bond that was unique and beautiful. They were from different worlds, yet they understood each other in ways that transcended biology. As Dr. Zyra continued her studies, she realized that understanding humans was not just about their biology, it was about their spirit and their will to survive against all odds. With each passing moment, she was not only learning about humans but also discovering herself. The journey of understanding humans was just beginning, and it promised to be thrilling and transformative for them both. Days turned into weeks, and Dr. Zyra and Jake grew closer as friends. Their bond was built on curiosity, respect, and mutual understanding. Dr. Zyra learned more about humans every day, while Jake became fascinated with the wonders of Zythera. However, as they conducted more experiments, the potential for mistakes increased. One morning, Dr. Zyra entered the lab with an air of excitement. "Jake, I have something new for us to try." She held up a glowing blue vial filled with a shimmering liquid. "This is a serum extracted from the lumiflower, a rare plant found only in the depths of Zythara's forests. It enhances physical abilities." Jake's eyes widened. "Enhance my abilities? What does that mean?" "It should temporarily boost your strength and speed," Dr. Zyra explained. "But we need to be careful. I've never tested it on a human before." "Let's do it," Jake said, eager to experience the effects. Dr. Zyra felt a rush of excitement at his enthusiasm, but also a twinge of worry. She carefully prepared the serum, her hands shaking slightly as she measured the right dosage. Just a small amount should be enough, she reminded herself. After a moment of hesitation, she injected the serum into Jake's arm. He felt a warm wave wash over him, and for a moment, everything seemed normal. But within minutes, things took an unexpected turn. Jake's heart raced and he felt a surge of energy like never before. "Wow, this is incredible!" he exclaimed, flexing his muscles. He dashed around the lab, moving faster than he ever had before. Dr. Zira watched in awe, but her excitement quickly turned to fear as she noticed his pulse on the monitor spiking dangerously high. "Jake, slow down!" she shouted. But he was too caught up in the moment to hear her. He felt invincible, as if he could conquer the universe, but the serum was working too well, and he was pushing his body beyond its limits. Suddenly, Jake stumbled, tripping over a lab table. He fell hard, hitting his head against the metal surface. Dr. Zira rushed to him, panic flooding her heart. "Jake! Are you okay?" she cried, kneeling beside him. Jake groaned, trying to sit up. I think so," he replied, rubbing his head. But Dr. Zira could see that his eyes were unfocused and that his breathing was labored. "Your body is in distress," she said. Worry etched across her face. "I need to help you." As she began examining him, she realized that the serum had increased not just his physical abilities, but also the stress on his body. This was a mistake, she thought, her heart sinking. "I pushed him too hard without understanding the consequences." Dr. Zira quickly activated the healing chamber again, placing Jake inside. The chamber hummed to life, enveloping him in a soft blue glow. "You'll be okay. Just relax," she said, trying to reassure him. As the healing process began, Dr. Zira reflected on her actions. She had been so eager to discover the wonders of human biology that she had lost sight of the potential dangers. She should have been more careful, especially with a creature so fragile compared to her own kind. After several tense moments, Jake's breathing began to stabilize. The healing chamber worked to calm his racing heart and regulate his body temperature. Slowly, he started to feel better. "What happened?" he asked, his voice hoarse but steadier. "You reacted strongly to the serum," Dr. Zira explained, relief flooding through her. "I didn't account for the side effects." "I'm so sorry, Jake. I was too focused on my research." He smiled weakly, understanding the mix of excitement and fear that came with scientific discovery. "It's okay, Dr. Zira. I pushed it too hard. I just wanted to feel strong." Dr. Zira looked into his eyes and felt a wave of guilt wash over her. "I should have known better. Humans are not just subjects for study. You are so much more." Once Jake was stable, he stepped out of the chamber. "I appreciate your care. I know you didn't mean for this to happen." But Dr. Zira couldn't shake off her feelings of responsibility. "We need to be more careful in the future. I can't let my curiosity put you in danger again." Jake nodded, understanding her concerns. "I'll be more cautious too. We can explore the unknown together, but we must remember that my body has limits." From that day on, Dr. Zira and Jake established new rules for their experiments. They would take things slowly, ensuring safety was the top priority. Despite the mistake, their friendship grew stronger as they learned to balance excitement with caution. They realized that true understanding came not just from experimentation, but from respect and care for one another. As they moved forward, both Dr. Zira and Jake understood that their journey was not just about exploring the differences between their species, but also about building trust and friendship that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, ready to learn and grow while keeping each other safe. As weeks passed, Dr. Zira and Jake settled into a routine. They conducted experiments with care, learning from their previous mistakes. Their friendship deepened, filled with laughter and shared stories. But one day, a shadow loomed over their peaceful existence. In the distance, a strange ship entered Zithara's atmosphere. It was unlike any vessel Dr. Zira had seen before. Its dark exterior shimmered ominously against the bright purple sky. "What is that?" she wondered aloud, her heart racing. "Looks like trouble," Jake replied, squinting at the ship. "Do you think it's from another planet?" Dr. Zira's expression turned serious. "We must be cautious. Not all visitors come in peace." She quickly activated the lab's security systems, locking down the facility. As the ship descended, a group of aliens disembarked. They were tall, with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes. Their skin glistened like metal, and they moved with an unsettling grace. Dr. Zira recognized them immediately, the Zixarians, a race known for their ruthless conquests and advanced technology. "Jake, we need to hide," Dr. Zira whispered urgently. They quickly ducked behind a large storage unit as the Zixarians approached the lab. "Do you think they've come for me?" Jake asked, fear creeping into his voice. "I don't know," Dr. Zira replied, her mind racing. "But we must stay quiet." The Zixarians entered the lab, their voices low and menacing. "The readings indicate a human presence here," one of them said, scanning the room with a device. "We must find it. The human will be valuable to our research." Dr. Zira's heart sank. They had come for Jake. "We can't let them take you," she whispered fiercely. "We need a plan." Jake nodded, determination in his eyes. "We can use the hidden escape route in the back. I remember seeing it during our first tour of the lab." "Good idea," Dr. Zira said, her mind racing. They quietly moved towards the exit at the back of the lab, hoping to avoid detection. But just as they reached the door, one of the Zixarians turned and pointed. "There! They're trying to escape!" Panic surged through Dr. Zira. "Run!" she shouted. They sprinted through the door, with the Zixarians hot on their heels. The escape route twisted and turned through the underground tunnels of the lab. Jake felt adrenaline pumping through his veins as he pushed forward, determined to protect himself and Dr. Zira. They dashed through the dark passages, the sounds of their pursuers growing louder behind them. "Where do we go?" Jake gasped, glancing back at the approaching aliens. Dr. Zira led the way, her heart racing. "We need to get to the outer chamber. It has a transport pod that can take us to safety." As they ran, Dr. Zira could hear the Zixarians shouting commands to each other. "They won't let us get away easily," she thought, fear gripping her heart. Finally, they reached the outer chamber. The room was vast, filled with machinery and blinking lights. In the center stood the transport pod, its doors open and ready. "We're almost there!" Dr. Zira urged, pushing herself to run faster. But just as they approached the pod, one of the Zixarians appeared in front of them, blocking their escape. "You will not leave with the human," he hissed, raising a weapon that glowed ominously. Dr. Zira stepped forward, her voice steady despite her fear. "You cannot take him! He is not a specimen for your research. He is a person with thoughts and feelings." The Zixarian sneered. "Your words mean nothing. Hand over the human, or face the consequences." Jake felt a surge of anger and fear. "You don't understand, humans! We fight back!" he shouted defiantly, his hands clenched into fists. In that moment, Dr. Zira realized they had to act quickly. "We have to make a choice, Jake," she said urgently. "We can't let them take you. We must fight back!" Jake nodded, feeling a rush of determination. "Let's do it." They charged forward together. Jake used his enhanced strength to tackle the Zixarian, catching him off guard. The alien stumbled, and Dr. Zira quickly grabbed a nearby metal rod, using it to defend them both. The struggle was fierce. Dr. Zira fought with all her strength, using her knowledge of the lab to outmaneuver the Zixarian. With Jake's newfound abilities and her quick thinking, they managed to push their enemy back. Just as they were about to reach the transport pod, more Zixarians poured into the chamber, their eyes gleaming with malice. "Stop them!" one yelled. Realizing they were outnumbered, Dr. Zira quickly activated the pod's controls. "Get in! Now!" she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. Jake jumped into the pod just as Dr. Zira followed him. She slammed the door shut, her heart pounding as she punched in the coordinates for the safe zone. As the transport pod launched into the sky, Dr. Zira and Jake could see the Zixarians' ship in the distance. They had escaped, but the threat was far from over. They were now hunted, and Dr. Zira knew they had to find a way to protect themselves and stop the Zixarians from coming after them again. As they soared away from the lab, she turned to Jake, determination in her eyes. "We will find a way to stop them. Together we can face any challenge." Jake nodded, a fire igniting within him. "I won't let them take me or anyone else. We'll fight back no matter what." With their bond stronger than ever, Dr. Zira and Jake prepared for the battles ahead, ready to confront the dangers that lay in wait. After their narrow escape from the Zixarians, Dr. Zira and Jake found themselves on a small, remote planet called Veridonia. The landscape was lush, filled with green trees, colorful flowers, and a gentle breeze that smelled sweet. It was a peaceful place, perfect for hiding from their pursuers. "We made it," Jake said, stepping out of the transport pod and taking a deep breath of fresh air. "But what now?" Dr. Zira looked around, her mind racing with possibilities. We need to find a way to protect ourselves and others from the Zixarians. They will not give up easily. Jake nodded, determination shining in his eyes. We can't just hide. We have to fight back. As they explored the beautiful planet, they stumbled upon a small village inhabited by friendly aliens called the Verdonians. These beings were gentle and curious, with skin that shimmered like the leaves in the sunlight. They welcomed Dr. Zira and Jake, offering them food and shelter. Thank you for your kindness, Dr. Zira said, feeling grateful. We are in danger and need your help. The Verdonians listened closely as they explained their situation. One elder named Leora stepped forward. You have come to our home and we will help you, she said. But first, we must learn more about your enemy. Dr. Zira and Jake shared their experiences with the Zixarians, describing their ruthless ways and advanced technology. The Verdonians were shocked but intrigued. We have faced threats in the past. We can unite our knowledge and resources, Leora suggested. Excited by the idea, Dr. Zira and Jake agreed. Together, they began to train the Verdonians, sharing their knowledge of combat techniques and strategies. The Verdonians were quick learners, their agile bodies moving gracefully as they practiced. Days turned into weeks, and a sense of hope filled the air. Dr. Zira and Jake formed a strong bond with the Verdonians, working side by side. They developed new weapons using the natural resources of Veridonia, combining human ingenuity with the Verdonians' unique skills. One evening, as the sun set in vibrant colors, the villagers gathered around a large fire to celebrate their newfound alliance. Leora spoke to the crowd. Tonight we honor our guests. Together we will protect our worlds from the Zixarian threat. The villagers cheered, their voices echoing into the night. Jake felt a surge of pride and determination. We are not alone anymore. We can fight back! But as they celebrated, Dr. Zira couldn't shake the feeling of unease. What if the Zixarians find us here? She thought. We must be prepared for anything. The following day, they received troubling news. A Zixarian scout ship had been spotted near Veridonia. The time for action was now. Dr. Zira gathered everyone to discuss their plan. We need to set up defenses around the village, she instructed. We can't let them surprise us. Let's use the element of surprise to our advantage, Jake added. We should create traps and lookouts in the trees. They won't expect us to be ready. The Verdonians quickly got to work, following the plans laid out by Dr. Zira and Jake. They worked together, forming a protective barrier around their village using natural camouflage to blend in with their surroundings. Days passed, and tensions grew as they awaited the Zixarians' arrival. Dr. Zira and Jake spent time strategizing, preparing their newfound allies for the battle ahead. They shared stories, laughter, and lessons, building a strong bond that would carry them through the challenges to come. Finally, the day arrived. The Zixarian ship descended from the sky, casting a shadow over the village. Dr. Zira's heart raced as she signaled to everyone to take their positions. Stay calm and remember what we practiced, she said, her voice steady. As the Zixarians landed, they stepped out with their weapons drawn. Prepare to capture the human, one of them shouted, their cold eyes scanning the area. But Dr. Zira and the Verdonians were ready. Using the traps they had set, they lured the Zixarians into a hidden pit. The aliens stumbled and fell, surprised by the sudden ambush. Now, Jake shouted, leading the charge. The villagers sprang into action, using their newfound weapons and skills to fight back. The battle was fierce, but the element of surprise gave them an advantage. Dr. Zira fought alongside her friends, her heart filled with hope. We can do this, she thought as they pushed the Zixarians back. The villagers showed incredible bravery, standing their ground and defending their home. After hours of fighting, the Zixarians retreated, realizing they were outmatched. As the dust settled, cheers erupted among the Verdonians. They had successfully defended their home. Exhausted but victorious, Dr. Zira and Jake stood together, looking at their new friends. We did it, Jake said, a smile breaking across his face. Dr. Zira nodded, her heart swelling with pride. This is just the beginning. We have created something beautiful here, a new alliance, a new beginning. With the Zixarian threat diminished, they knew they had forged a bond that would last. Together, they would continue to protect their worlds, exploring the wonders of their differences while standing united against any future threats. As they gazed at the stars above, Dr. Zira felt a sense of peace wash over her. They were not just allies, they were family now, ready to face whatever came next.